You've talked about this attitudinal issue, and you used the phrase investors were treated like prey in finance company examples. Here, I mean, obviously this is another example of people perhaps not doing their jobs with integrity. How do we change this? I mean, you talk about with the laws stripping them back maybe to where we were 30, 40 years ago, and rebuilding from that position up, but changing these attitudes and the way that investors are treated in this country. How do we fix that?
There are some good signs at the moment. For example, the Bridgecorp trial starting this morning in the High Court in Auckland. Now, these trials are getting underway. There are already going to be directors in jail, and there may be some more. One thing that's teaching at last is that directors actually have a job to do, and it's a serious job, and it's a job that requires competence, and it's not just a job that can be shared out among people for whom we must do something. We've done that a lot. I mean, people have been appointed judges in this country that you suspect there's a political reward or something in there, because you have to wonder at how the devil they got the job, because as lawyers they don't really cut it. And it's the same across the board. There needs to be the demands need to be made on the people who have the responsibilities, so that they can't shirk them, and they have to be real responsibilities. So that that's starting to happen with the directors, and that's a very good thing. The Serious Fraud Office and the Financial Markets Authority are, whether they were steps in the right direction or whether they were something that's been there for a long time in one form or another, and they've suddenly just got a bit better, that's encouraging. But that's got to carry right through. It's got to carry through in the demands that are made on professional people. We have this madness in New Zealand where lawyers don't specialise. They think they can do anything, and judges too, and they can't. I, for donkey's years, practiced in the tax field as well as in trusts. And 15 years ago, I realised I couldn't possibly keep up with all the reading in these fields, and I just dropped tax. And the amount of stuff that's coming out just in the trust and equity field, fiduciary duties, directors' duties, partners' duties, and so on, is colossal. And you simply, if you can't keep up with that, then you're actually faking it, because you're not keeping abreast of principle. And what's happening in this country is an awful lot of people just go into court, whether as barristers or judges, and they are faking it. And the whole thing's a charade that's a complete waste of time and money. And in fact, it doesn't just deal badly with the case in hand, but it creates a rotten precedent that then undermines the law and makes it worse. Two very prominent Australian judges and acknowledged world experts in equity in a textbook on Australian equity, which is the area that covers trusts and fiduciary duties and so on, a few years ago wrote a new edition for their book, and they referred to New Zealand and said, well, really it's a basket case so far as this area of the law is concerned. And they named Sir Robin Cook, who's undoubtedly one of the greatest judges we've ever produced. But he just shows that, and he was, but he just shows that no one person, not even someone as bright as he, can master all the fields. And on top of that, he was making decisions in cases where he was getting downright poor argument that didn't really understand what the problem was. And so the result was an explosive mix, and you got some complete nonsense being spoken. And there's another new book just out by an Oxford University professor just last year, and he's also saying basically that you can't take any notice of the New Zealand cases in this area. Now, every time we drive over the Harbour Bridge or the Newmarket Viaduct, we probably need to pray that the darn thing wasn't designed by an electrical engineer. And yet what happens in the courts all the time is exactly that sort of thing. Electrical engineers don't do viaducts, and the engineers seem to be able to see this very clearly. Gynecologists don't do neurosurgery, and they seem to be able to see that quite clearly in the medical profession. But and until we have some senior judges who need neurosurgery and find themselves on the slab being anaesthetised, and while they're noticing that a gynaecologist is scrubbing up and is consoling them by saying, well, don't worry, we're all doctors, and once I've got the top of your skull off, I'll get in there and I'll work something out. Then we might get some change, but it's really grim at present. And I think the only way to do it is to corral the judges, force some of them into areas specialising in some certain areas, maybe pension some others off. And even the ones who have been good at the particular areas before they went onto the bench, many of them write to me now supporting what I've been trying to do in this area, and will say, I've been on the bench for 20 years, I used to do a lot of intellectual property law before I went on. I've had one case in that area since I've been on the bench, and I would now be dangerous in it. So not only are people not allowed to be on the bench what they were at the bar, but in fact they're encouraged to lose what the skills they had so that they become uniformly useless. And we have to turn that around, and I think we've got to deal with the judges first and get them straight, and then they've got to start being very, very rude to barristers who turn up, who don't know what they're talking about, who are doing a criminal defence one week and a fiduciary duty case the next and a family law case the following week. That sort of thing just isn't possible. It isn't sensible. Economically, it's irrational. The whole theory of comparative advantage that underlies economics is that we're all better off if we all stick to making or doing the things that we're best at, and then buying the products produced by others who are best at these other things. And perhaps we're just not very good at economics in this country too. But yeah, there's the really dismaying thing, I think, is that there is absolutely no perception of any measurable IQ in Parliament capable of grappling with any of these fundamentals. The people are good people, they get elected, and then they're starting to think about the next election and what they should do to ensure that. And nobody comes in there with a program to say, well, look, this is broke and we've got to fix it, and here's a way to do it. And yeah, it's a bit of a desert, I think.